chapter 8, we are looking at Krishna telling Arjun that look, at every stage in life, you have a choice. And the choice that we have is between prayas and shreyas. Every single moment we are making a choice between prayas. Now, prayas and shreyas stand for two things, the two roads that diverge, and what is the choice we make? So in prayers, it is all the choices that we make for doing things or for engaging in activities which are satisfying the ego. And what are those? Or satisfying the bodily needs, whichever way, sensory needs. They are the ones which are desirable, easy, comfortable, and therefore we act upon it because they promise us immediate, instant pleasure, like entertainment or media or socializing or good food. These are things which promise us happiness, not in some distant future of understanding and realizing it. No, they offer instant pleasure, and therefore our choice automatically seems to fall on that. But Bhagavan is saying, no, wait, hold on a minute. There is a larger happiness, a more permanent happiness, a more lasting happiness, which no one can snatch from you, and it becomes unsnatchable. Don't you want that permanent happiness? And in exchange for these little fickle joys, which anyway will drop by and by, they are fickle. But I'm offering you something larger. Yes, it may take longer, and that is the path of Shreyas. These two words haven't been used in this particular chapter, Shreyas and Preyas. In fact, they are not used in the Bhagavad-Gita at all. I'm borrowing them from Kathopanishad, which is a dialogue between Nachiket and Yamraj. Because Nachiket, the young boy of 12, he was very obstinate and adamant that he wanted to know the truth and only the truth, and nothing else could tempt him away from that, although Yamraj tried to dissuade him. So that is another beautiful, very inspiring Upanishad called the Kathopanishad. Anyway, so Shreyas here stands for that path which may be harder, which may be longer, and not the easy path of instant happiness. Harder and longer, but that is the path of righteousness. Why? Because in that action we choose not according to whether it is going to satisfy me, my selfish needs right now, but the mind is on whether this action or that action is going to benefit society. Is it for the good of society, for others, or for someone else, not me? And will it bring me? What will it bring for me? Oh, then I choose any of the actions which will bring me my wealth. My wealth is what? My wealth is some kind of mind control, some kind of sense control, some kind of detachment, some kind of humility, some kind of forbearance, some kind of tap, the ability to focus. These are my only treasures. And the moment I choose an action, I say, will this action or thought or involvement bring me these things, my wealth? And if the outer actions by themselves cannot give us anything, when we approach it with this attitude of these six wealth, they call the Samadhi Shat Sampatti. That's the name given. Shat Sampatti means the six wealths. So Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, and of course you have detachment. So will this action take me away from my rag and dvesh, which means can I do it without attachment and without a sense of aversion? And every day we are presented. What good is this? What good is this? The choosing of these two kinds of paths. So Bhagavan says in number 26, I'm just recapping a bit. Chapter 8, verse 26. Shukla Krishne gati hete jagatah shashvate mate ekaya yatana vrittim ananya vartate punaha. So one is the path of light and the other is the path of darkness, which means one leads you directly towards your own spiritual growth, because we are here for the main purpose of realizing our own self. If the main purpose is known to us, we may not meander into other paths unnecessarily. And the other is the path of darkness. So for example, a surgeon comes into the room and he takes your blood pressure and he checks your sugar levels and he checks all your other parameters, and while doing all this he doesn't forget that, oh, this was not the end purpose, this was not the goal, entire goal of the exercise. The main goal of his exercise he cannot forget. It is so central to his profession and his nature, and that is, I am checking all these parameters so that I can conduct a surgery on the body. Now, if he forgot that that was the major goal, he may get lost in these small little things and may even absent-mindedly wander out and say, okay, I've taken blood pressure, it's fine, all the parameters are fine. End of story? How can it be end of story? All the parameters are fine. Now, the Karma Yoga, the Jnana Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, the Dhyan Yoga are all these other little things that we have to fix. They're just being fixed so that we have this final surgery on the spiritual life. What is being fixed are Antahkaran. That Antahkaran means that inner instrument that we have, the Man and the Buddhi, that instrument has to be stable, strong and free of all the vikara of Kama, Krodh. And in order to free ourselves and make the Antahkaran Shuddh, all these other processes have been adopted. And therefore, when somebody says to us, oh, what is the Gita all about? So we may say, oh yes, I have read a bit about Dhyan, you should do Dhyan. And I have read also that Karma Yoga is very important. I have also heard Krishna say that Arjun, you should have Ananya Bhakti. Okay, but as we reminded ourselves, that all these are things which Krishna is fixing so that the main purpose is attained. Therefore, Gita has got a lot of mention of Karma Yoga, but it is not a Karma Shastra. The Karma Yoga meaning the selfless discipline, any act taken with selfless discipline, not selfish need or greed. And there is Bhakti Yoga, there is Dhyan Yoga, there is Sannyasa Yoga. All this, once it is fixed, what is the main purpose? What is the central theme, the plot, the main point of Bhagavad-Gita? So easy. You may say the main point of Bhagavad-Gita is that we have to be free from our delusions. And the moment we are free from our delusions, we are free altogether. That is, altogether from birth and death. And that is called moksha. And therefore, Gita can be termed as the Moksha Shastra. The Shastra which is aimed using many methods and ideas and ways of bringing us to the path of moksha. What are these delusions? We are well aware of these delusions. The 5 main delusions that we suffer from, and everything emanates from that. All the wrong decisions. The main delusion we have, and the biggest one, if we understand this one, everything falls into place. That Maya or the world of matter is real and I am real and my interaction here is real. So Bhagavan says, oops, no, everything that is made of matter out there in the world can never be complete, can never be perfect, can never be nitya, can never be permanent. So you cannot complain about the world and complain about your inability to find that perfection, that happiness, that nitya joy, because it's not as if the world is against you. It's not as if, oh, something is unfair about the creation of this sansar and things are not quite right. No, it's not that. Bhagavan says, please understand the very nature of world of matter is to be anitya, to be decaying, to disease, to disintegrate and to fall, because that's the nature of sansar or maya. Once you understand the nature of something, you don't expect something else from it. But that's our delusion. So for example, I have understood the nature of water, suppose. And we have actually. So the nature of water is sapidity, it is fluidity, it is coolness. But if I don't understand that, I would expect water to give me some other kind of a taste or sensation and say, no, I want water to taste like rasgulla. Why is it not tasting like roshogulla? And I'm quite upset about this. The world is quite unfair. It is as silly as that. Of course, in the case of water, we can see that the nature of water is sapidity and it is tasteless. In the same way, the nature of Maya, the world of matter, Bhagavan says it's as clear as daylight. It is as clear as daylight to Krishna that the world of matter is anitya, imperfect, incomplete, and subject to destruction. He's saying, why can't you, human beings, see it? If only you could see it, you would never grieve. You would never grieve. You would never find disappointment, frustration. Just as when we drink water, we expect the water to be of that particular tasteless and the fluid and the sapidity. We are already expecting it. Greatest Maya, I am permanent, world is impermanent, world is permanent, is my greatest Maya. I want freedom from that. The moment I have moksha or freedom from that, I know that if Maya or the world of sansar is impermanent, then what is it? The very next question to any educated, intelligent mind would be, then Bhagwan, what is it that is permanent? And then Bhagwan says, okay, that place I'm going to lead you to where you can find yourself, because right through your days of growing up and through all your states, Trayavastha of sleep, dream and deep sleep, you have never found that consciousness, that God ever leaves your side. It is there constantly with you. That is the only constant and permanent factor. Okay, the moment I know this, I am freed from my next two delusions. And the next two delusions are that there is a limitation of space in which I am living. That this is my space, this is my country. We identify ourselves with small little things. This is my locality, this is my language, this is my religion. We have constricted ourselves and limited ourselves to even smaller than we have already been in this Panchatattva body. We are already minuscule and small and limited because of Panchatattva, the 5 elements of our body and mind, and we have limited ourselves further than that by saying, oh, my country and this is my space and my job and my profession, my salary, my family. What is this? Bhagavan is saying, you are not limited by space. If you know that one consciousness that you are, then that limitation of space is gone. You are everywhere and every time. Everywhere meaning even after death. Yes, that is a promise. And therefore, as you grow up, you were constant, and as we grow old, we are constant. As we pass away, we are constant, and therefore there is no limitation of time. Moment we get over this delusion of time, space, Maya, these are the biggest delusions, then we are also freed of the next big delusion of attachment. When we are attached to this or that, we are attached because we think it's mine, ये मेरा है और ये मेरा ही रहेगा हमेशा के लिए. Now this is a mistaken understanding which leads to all the future pain and affliction of the mind and sorrow and disillusionment. This attachment would not come had we cleared up the very first delusion of Maya. Oh, everything is impermanent, everything will pass away. Agama payuno anityaha, even my joys, even my sorrows, my family, my dearest ones, even the battles which are being fought on the border. Yes, one fine day they have to close. And what about the peace on the other borders? Yes, they may erupt again on the other borders. There may be warfare. Everything goes in a cycle of violence and peace and warfare and happiness and joy and life and death and youth and old age. This entire cycle is part of Maya. The moment we get that understanding, no attachment. So all the others are actually attendant delusions. One main delusion leading to other attendant delusions. And so then there is no fear. What is it that we are fearing? Bhagavan says, if you see this, the Ferris wheel, the Ferris wheel, that chakri in the melas, which goes up and then down, and then it goes round and round. So every time you go down to the bottom, your carriage, the carriage in which you're sitting, Are you going to weep and say, oh my God, how long will I be here at the bottom of the wheel? I want to climb up to the crest of it. You don't weep because you know, you have seen the Ferris wheel go up and down, and that is its chakra. Bhagavan says that from his point of view, which is the cosmic time and space, from that he has a much larger view of our lives. Bhagavan says, expand your mind to that expanse and see that even your life is like that. It's like a Ferris wheel, that chakri, I don't know what it's called, that jhula, which goes up and down, and there are lots of carriages going upar and niche, but no one is weeping about it. If you see that life is the same, in the same way you will see life and death, and in the same way you will see your joys coming and going, and sorrows coming and going, and your loved ones coming and departing from the earth, and your own body, which is present here, departed tomorrow. What is the fear about? Krishna can't understand. So he has already said in the second chapter, 30th verse, Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata. The indweller in you, the indweller is that consciousness. No, that is indestructible. Avadhyoyam, it is indestructible. Tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. So grieve not. Shochitum arhasi. Arjun, there is nothing to grieve about. In fact, Krishna is saying, please tell me what it is that you are grieving about, because I fail to understand. There is no grief. Once you understand this life, this chakra of Maya as that Ferris wheel which goes up and down, and once you see it from far away, just get off the wheel for some time in meditation or in contemplation. Just get off it and stand apart from it, and then see, oh, I can see my neighbors' families. If we can't understand ours because we are too close to it, look at the neighbors' families, look at the biographies of great people. There has been the same chakra of ups and downs and success and failure and frustration and name and defame, man and apaman, and what have they gained at the end of it? The only thing that carries forward is how much we have understood ourselves to be close to that spirit, that consciousness that we are. Have we been vigilant enough? So 27th verse says that you need to find that with one method. What is that method? 27. Naite sriti partha janan yogi mohyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. This mohyati kaschana, free from delusion, exactly what we have spoken about. You free yourself from these delusions, mohyati, which is moha, delusion, and you will never again have to face sorrow. In the second line it says, but when should I remember? When I am reading the Gita, or when I am listening to it, or when someone reminds me, or when I read a certain message and I am inspired by it? Yes, in the beginning, maybe that's the beginning. But he says it will take you far from delusion, this knowledge, only when it is sarveshu kaleshu. Can you do it in all your waking and sleeping and not sleeping, and in your activities? Why? Be yoga yukta bhavarjuna, be yoga yukta. That means sarveshu kaleshu. How can I remember God all the time? How can I remember that flute player or Ram? No, I don't think that is the indication here. It means be vigilant, be very alert. Because even the highest munis can slip. They can make an effort towards the highest and they can slip, like Vishwamitra. So don't berate yourself, oh, I have slipped from my highest goal and now I'm feeling a sense of krodh or intense hankering or craving for something or other, or intense, I cannot concentrate because there is that trip I wanted so badly to happen and it didn't happen. I couldn't meet my family, or that car that I wanted for my son and my son couldn't get. What is it in the mind? If it is any of these kama, krodha, mada, lobha, moha, greed, if it is lingering in the mind, it is only you who can be yoga yukta, that is ever alert and vigilant. What is the solution to it? Because Robert Frost, that celebrated English poet, he himself has said, we dance around the ring. He says, we dance around the ring and suppose that this is the truth. We dance around the ring and suppose, but the secret sits in the middle and knows. That secret which sits in the middle, in our center, which is part of us, it's already is that knowledge. It knows, and it is sitting quietly inside. So Robert Frost, the poets are mostly spiritual people, and if you read any poetry from any part of the world, and Zen and Buddhist and Western literature, it doesn't matter. Poets have a way of intuitively coming to that one and only truth, and therefore we find gleanings of it in literature. What is the solution? Because I'm leading an ordinary grihastha life, and I'm not a kavi or a poet or a muni or a sannyasi or even a tapasvi. I don't even have that kind of vairagya, that is distance from my own things and possessions. What am I to do? Okay, so the solution may be to use few simple steps and keep them as part of the schedule. If my schedule is fixed, it gets done. If it's not in my schedule, it doesn't get done. This applies to everything. Imagine the time that we planned some wedding in the family. Everything was noted down, the guest list was put down, and the entire logistics and expenses and everything was listed down. So then, what is so difficult about this? Why is this difficult to put down in the schedule? So meditation, number one. Meditation is that powerful reconnect with our inner self. Maybe difficult in the beginning, but just as in the beginning we find any craft, any art, any skill a little bit tough because we can't grapple with it. It's only yoga yukta, that consistency, that satatam, that nitya yukta, only that consistency gets us wherever we have got in our skills. So meditation, number one, it's a powerful reconnect. It's a reconnect to our own inner silence. Number two, become a witness. A witness, just as I gave that example of, I can see all the people screaming, some of them out of fear and some of them out of joy on that big Ferris wheel in the middle of the Mela. Just step out of it mentally, because our whole life is a Ferris wheel where you can see in your neighborhood and in your professions, there are some people rejoicing their successes, some people are grieving the losses. Everything is going on, and it will happen to us too. We are mounted on the same Maya Sansar Ferris wheel. But if we step out mentally, become a witness, Sakshi Bhava, it's called the Bhava, the attitude of Sakshi. And periodically, maybe not through the day, but periodically, once in a way, in a couple of times or 3 times in a day, even as we are in the midst of activities, step back, the mind just detaches from that intense involvement in whatever we are doing and pulls out while the activity still goes on. Nothing is affected. You're not going to upset anyone or any activity. Pull out, observe your own thoughts. Step out, almost as if your own drama is going on and you stepped into the audience to see ki acha dekhte hain kaisa dikhta. What to do? Observe the thoughts. Observe what emotions are going on in my mind right now. What are the actions I am doing? What is the purpose for which I am doing this action? Is it going to consume my entire day, this action? Or is it an action that I want to finish and save time for my own tapasya, swadhyay, my own reading, or whatever I want to cultivate as my main goal? Then I will be careful about how much of time and mind and emotion I squander into the daily activities. Everyone has those activities. They just expand to fill the day, but we can contract them to save time. Then ask. Main thing is, once we observe as a kind of outsider what's going on in my mind and thoughts, I ask that final and the most eye-opening question. The most, I can say that question which blazons the way through to spirituality. Ask that question. And that is, who is observing? Who is this I which is observing as an outsider what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and how I'm reacting to the actions and people around me? Who is that observer? So the actor and the feeler and the experiencer can't be the same observer. I am that separate witness, Sakshi. consciousness. That separation has to be established. We can do it once in a way, it becomes a habit, and after a while, even as I was told, one of the seekers was conducting a Diwali puja, and suddenly her mind pulled out and said, okay, so what is the purpose of this? I have been doing it mechanically for several years, all the Diwali puja and celebrations, but what is the purpose and what is the significance of it? So her mind pulled out of it as an outsider. So finally, who is that observer? That is separate from me, the doer, the experiencer. Another way to do it is during the day, third step and third idea, let's say, is to, in the middle of any activity or thought or even watching TV or anything that we may do, in the middle of the shower, having a nice shower, suddenly put your mind to your breath and bring the mind to the breath while activities are all going on. Nothing comes to a standstill, and observe the breath, your breath. And once your mind is in the breath, you know what happens to the mind? Hey presto, the mind is pulled from the past and the future into the present. But why? Why is that magic happening? Because breath cannot be in the past. The breath is happening right now. My breath cannot be in the future. What's going to happen to my daughter's next childbirth? What is going to happen to, do we have enough medical facilities? What is my next mutual fund thing? Am I going to be secured for my medical expenses? And my car has just had a crash and I really don't know if I have insurance. My mind is in the future. But the moment, just for those 15 seconds, I bring the mind to my breath, hey presto, the mind comes back to the present. Why is the present so important? Because that is the only moment which is. The past is gone, the future is not yet, and the present is where you are, where the consciousness is, where the entire presence is. So, bring your breath to the present moment and then let it go, because the mind wanders and the mind will take away the breath consciousness also. It happens all the time, and once in a way it's like a game. It's like playing hide and seek with your own mind and saying, aha, okay, I hid from you, my silly mind, you were chasing me and you were dragging me into the marketplace. Here I am sitting quietly in my silent corner. Hey, okay, you found me now. Alright, so I'll go along with you for a while. But this hide and seek becomes a nice little game with ourselves. But the result of it is momentous. Momentous result, because slowly it becomes a physiological and mental habit for us to live in the present. And the present does not know grief or worry, because worry is for something that may happen in the future, may or may not happen. And therefore, how can there be worry? Because the events haven't unfolded yet. So worry can never be in the present. And the past glories, the vanities, oh, I was this and I was that. Those are vanities and past glories. They cannot be in the present. So when, because they are gone, they are dead, they are back to dust. All my past glories have turned to dust. So bringing ourselves to the present consciousness, the closest possible thing to us is consciousness. We can't experience it, so we find ourselves frustrated. But the breath is the next closest thing. And therefore we can become more and more sukshma, subtle, and clear the mind enough for that big leap, one fine day, one fine life in the future, that big leap into the spiritual world of self-realization will take place from this small step of antahkaran shuddhi or sukshmata. That subtlety has to be there. How is it that I find subtlety so difficult? Because my mind is not in subtle things. It is in the gross world of solid objects and palpable successes and failures and wealth and approval and admiration and affection and love and family. It's in the gross world, and the gross world is subject to disintegration. So, fourth step. So these are all, it's a kind of solution formula. Okay, and I'm just getting into it because otherwise we grapple with the concepts of reaching that highest truth. From where? Where do I begin? My senses are already lipped, involved in the gross world. So, fourth step is just do neti neti. What is this neti neti? Literally, if you translate it, it means not this, not this. So during the day, whatever we are doing, now we have already trained our minds to take that pause, that silence, to withdraw, to hide in that corner of the mind. It's become like a game. And once you are in your own little hide and seek game, in that pause, what you can do is, you can, whatever we happen to be doing. So I was polishing a beautiful piece of brassware. It's almost an antique. For Diwali, I was polishing it. So, as I'm polishing it, of course, my mind may be on how my relatives are doing and what's happening there and what's my next plan, what am I going to wear to the Diwali party and all. If my mind is elsewhere, that means I'm not with me. I'm not with my consciousness. I am not present. Suddenly take a pause and look at the object, whatever you happen to be doing. I'm just giving an example. And then I bring my mind to that object. I'm touching it. I'm looking at it from all angles. I can even smell it. Maybe you can take a whiff of it and tap it with a spoon and hear the sound. Why? It's just a way of using all the senses on that object. Once you hear and touch and smell and taste it, what do you tell your mind? Remind yourself, aha, this object that I'm involved with right now, this is not real. It's not real. It is asat. And we have already given the definition of asat. Anything that is created and disintegrates. So, a brassware may take about 10,000 years to disintegrate, but a beautiful tapestry on my wall may take just 10 years to disintegrate. And what about that diamond ring? Okay, so another maybe few hundred years. And what about that beautiful gown that I bought for the Diwali party? I touch and smell and taste and feel and the texture, and I say, this is not real. It's going to last a few years, that's all. This is not real, it's not permanent, it's not sat. The same thing we can do with anything that we are engaging in the world, because it's only our senses, by the way. It is only our senses which are engaging with the world, with the outer world, that is. Therefore, it's a kind of training for the senses. It's all impermanent. It is asat. Okay, then you can laugh it off. It's a nice little game to play with our own minds. But in fact, what we are doing is we are training our senses, training the mind towards that highest truth. So it's a reminder. What is the next thing? Number 5, which is again a reminder. We need only reminders. It's not that we don't know the truth. We have read it umpteen number of times. We have seen it expostulated. We have seen it explained. We have seen it analyzed and explained. Oh, no. But it doesn't seem to sink in. Why? Because we need our reminders. It's like learning to swim. I cannot learn to swim by being told, read that entire lesson about swimming, and I read that lesson over and over and over again about swimming and floating. I still cannot float or swim. I'm just reading about it. Reminder and exercises for myself. Now, what is the next reminder? The 5th reminder is, I have several roles to play. Yeah, and I have so many things to do in the world, and I have so many roles to play. So I am a professional and a parent and a sister and a friend and a pet owner, and sometimes even a charity giver. So everyone looks at me with respect to that particular role I am playing. But the reminder is, what is my main identity? Aha! In the middle of anything, anytime, you can just come back and say, oh, what is my main identity? And what is my main purpose? So, simple reminder. Identity, of course, is imperishable consciousness. I am imperishable. And everything I am interacting with and having fun with or grieving over, reminder, gentle reminder, it is asat, and I can, at my own free will, I can withdraw my mind, not my mind because I am interacting with it, I can withdraw my attachment to it, my engagement with it, my rag or dvesha with it, my aversion or attraction to it. That is my freedom I demand. That is the freedom we all have a right to. So that reminder comes from us. Therefore, these 5 little steps are like a little game, like a solution list. And if we don't put it on our calendar, we cannot expect to make much progress. Just as when I was planning a wedding in the family, I wouldn't hope to make any progress towards the logistics and planning and shopping and invitations and gifts. Why? Everything would be haywire, would be scattered, would be shabbily done. And therefore, our spiritual life is equally shoddy, well, at least some of us, because of the squandered energy and the squandered time and the lack of vigilance and the lack of alertness to watch where we are. That vigilance is what Bhagavan means by Yoga Yukta Bhavarjuna. Number 28. Vedeshu Yagyeshu Tapassu Chaiva Daneshu Yat Punya Phalam Pradishtam Atyeti Tat Sarvamidam Viditva Yogi Param Sthanam Upaiti Chadyam. So whatever the fruit of action, you may gain a whole lot of fruits of action by doing karma kand, that is the tapa and yagya, but it is meditation which is going to give us that steadiness and that quietness. So sometimes it is said that if we do all the puja, the archana, the tapasya, the upasana, the dan, the dharma, karma kand, havan, maybe that will bring us some kind of steadiness, because we are distancing ourselves from the material world, hopefully. So there are 2 things in Havan and Puja Archana. The thing is, we may do it in 2 ways. One is, do it in order to assure prosperity, material prosperity for us. That's also okay, because only then we will go beyond it. Once we have been able to demand or invoke material prosperity, we can go beyond it only after it. The second thing is, I may do puja archana in order to become selfless and to understand a higher reality. Whichever way we use puja, archana, tap, charity, whether it is selfish or selfless, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we need to go beyond the material and into a state of egolessness. And then only we can meditate, because meditation demands a very yukta mind, a very steady mind, a very a focused mind. It's also the other way around. It's like chicken and egg. It's only when I have meditated that I have gained that focus and steadiness and distance and contemplation, that who am I. So it's meditation not in blankness. It's meditation with an understanding that I am meditating on that ultimate imperishable truth, that consciousness which the whole universe is, which the whole universe reverberates and vibrates to, and of which I am a part. I am only that. There is only one truth. With this understanding in mind, I meditate, and it gives me focus. And then I can do puja and archana and tapasya in order to keep that steadiness with me. Both ways, it's fine. Bhagavan says both ways it's fine. In order to steady the mind, you may do any of these things, your austerities and your tapasya or meditation, whichever suits us the best. But he says, the one who meditates, Krishna's personal preference, I'm telling you, Krishna's personal preference is the one who meditates, because yogi, last line he says, yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam, the sincere meditator is the one who is going to gain 1,000,000 times more effective steadiness in integrating the self and in curbing the scattering of the mind. Meditation will reach us there 1,000,000 times faster than all the other activities of charity, selflessness, karma yoga, and bhakti and upasana and karma kand. He says, yeah, that will also get you there. It's a longer route. But for both there is a qualification, and the qualification is that we must have a dispassion from the material things after which the mind is chasing, and the vivek, the discernment, discrimination, to know the difference between sat and asat, Am I chasing the perishable or imperishable? That Vivek and dispassion, Vairagya, are the two only handymen with us on this long, long journey. And this journey can be made much easy if we have these two Sarthis, let's say, on our chariot, Vivek and Vairagya. And if we have Krishna on our chariot, as a Sarthi, then what a blessing, what a blessing. What do I mean by Krishna? Krishna, by him I mean that Gyan itself. So Vivek, Vairagya and Gyan, if these three are our friends and Sarthis, how can the chariot go wrong? How can it sink lower and lower into the world of matter and passions and lascivious pleasures and hankering and all the afflictions that this kind of chasing brings? We cannot go wrong. So resisting the lure of instant pleasure, Bhagavan says, okay, meditation is one of the most beautiful ways. What is it that we looked at first let me close this and then go to a quick 5-minute overview of chapter 8. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad-Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Akshara Brahma Yogo Namaha Ashtamodhyayah Hari Om. Okay, so chapter 8 we have already seen. Bhagavan has said right in the earlier verses of verses 3, 4 and 5 that in this macro cosmic world, this whole universe is pulsating. Pulsating meaning it is expanding and contracting, and creation and dissolution is coming about as in the form of the world becoming manifest, Vyakta, and going into Pralaya, Avyakta. What about us, Jiva? Yes, we are also being born and living and dying and going back to Avyakta, which was already mentioned in chapter 2. Same thing, nothing more than this. So there is Brahma Akshara. How to know that Akshara? What are we doing? We are only carrying the memory of our deep personality, our Vasanas and the 3 gunas. And that is, the 3 gunas are causing us our next birth and the next birth and then the next. But otherwise, our Jiva life is actually imitating the macrocosmic world of creation and dissolution, of birth and death. It happens to the cosmos also, birth and death, but it always bounces back because one thing is constant. So death is nothing to fear about. It's our, what are we carrying forward? What is that swabhav we are carrying forward? If we dissolve our swabhav also by total, dissolving the ego, by dissolving selfish actions, by not desiring, actively desiring, hankering, somehow if we dissolve even ourselves into that Param Tattva, then the whole journey, this whole journey that Gita has started us on, of the sansar, is complete, because Gita is taking us on a journey which prepares us for moksha and for the soul. This is the journey of the soul, let's say. And what are all the things that we are doing in the world? We are only preparing for life, not for the soul, just preparing for the life. So more activities, more attachments, more people, more Vyakti. And therefore that's the difference between the Mudha and the Mahatma. Mudha means the deluded, and Mahatma the one who has realized. So chapter 9 actually is very beautifully sliding into a description by Krishna on what are these mood people doing, what are the kinds of actions they do, what is the kind of mental attitude of the Mudha, the deluded, and the Mahatmas who have different kinds of qualities. They have Daivi qualities. What are these Daivi qualities? Oh, I want them too, because I am too materialistic, consumeristic in this ephemeral world, and therefore maybe I belong to the Asuri Pravritti, the inclination for the lower. This whole distinction of Asuri and Daivi coming up in chapter 9. Therefore Bhagavan always holds the best for the next chapter. we also saw in chapter 8 very clearly, starting from the 5th verse, that it is only our thoughts. What is leading us on to our course? Is our course towards the spiritual or to the material, to the jad, to the sthula, to the gross? Who decides? It is our thoughts. As our thoughts, so is our life. That's all. And therefore he says in the 5th verse of chapter 8, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. As your thoughts through your life, so will be your thoughts at the end of your life, naturally. And therefore that's what you carry forward. So who decides whether I'm going to be on the spiritual path or the material? It's the thoughts, our own thoughts. And how does that happen? So in the 7th verse he said, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmaran mamanusmara yodhyacha. So Arjun, simply, whatever you are doing at that particular point in time, learn to withdraw your mind now and then, to pull back and put your mind on me, on that highest truth, on that consciousness, or Krishna. Ma manusmara means think of me. Krishna is saying literally that's what it means. And he says, Mayar pitamano buddhihi, absorb your mind in me. I will definitely take you to that highest goal. Mame vaishyasya samshayam, doubtless. My promise is, without samshaya, I will take you on that path. But even while living and in all these turmoils of existence, if you can withdraw your mind a little bit and become aware of your true nature, you are close to me. That's what he said in verse 7. It's all connected with the thought. So what should I do? So 8th verse, Bhagavan has already said, Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya-gamina. Abhyasa, habitual meditation and being yukta in it. So you can't meditate now and then. You have to be yuktena, steadfast, with your mind not wandering, in nanya-gamina, in all other things all the time. When will this happen to me, Bhagavan? Only when you start somewhere. Take your first step of withdrawing your mind for half an hour, and then an hour, and then 2 hours, one in the morning, one in the evening, and then later the mind becomes so trained and so focused and so single-pointed and so well disciplined that even while doing the actions of the world, my mind can remain in that higher position of I am Satya. Krishna is at my elbow, right there, he is with me. How can he have gone anywhere? After all, he is consciousness, Krishna. Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati Parthanu Chintayan. To that resplendent Supreme Being, your meditation will take you. Habitual meditation, not a wandering kind. Okay, that needs practice, just like swimming and driving, and we have learnt a lot of skills. We have done some pretty hard things in life, and as I gave the example, even childbirth is such a hard thing, and yet people, do go through it without hesitation. So why not the search for Bhagavan? Why hesitate? Why do we even hesitate? What are the tips for this? The tip was given in 9th verse when he said, I am achintayam, achintya rupam. You cannot conceive me from with your gross senses, and therefore as long as we identify ourselves only with the external self, that this is my personality, this is my nama, rupa, position and status and wealth, and this is my net worth in the market, this is what people think of me, these are my opinions on Facebook, and this is my external self, and I'm interacting with the external world only. Bhagavan says, as long as you are going to be in that external world, interacting only as an external entity, you will not be able to reduce your delusion of Atma Gyan. Who am I? How? So who am I? Who am I meaning? Okay, you are the same as Param Tattva. In the 11th verse he said, Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Yadyatato Vitaragaha. So if you can be self-controlled, some more tips are given here. Slightly self-controlled meaning be able to step away from that jhula, that big jhula in the mela, we are in a big fair, marketplace, a marquee, and we are enjoying ourselves to the hilt. And to step away from that marquee and have a look at all the mela going on. So you become desire free. How do you become desire free? Because you see that everyone is lost in it. In fact, if you sometimes get into a conversation and you ask someone a simple question, how are you? And in the beginning they'll say, theek hai, everything fine and all. And when you dig a little deeper, they go into this long litany of ailments and mental problems and physical problems. And even as you are listening to this long list, something in your mind becomes totally vairag. You say, is this life? Is this everyone's life? Yes, it is. And then your mind becomes a little vairagi, a little detached. Even while that person is so deeply engrossed telling you the whole story. Mujhe ye hua, wo hua. Listen to these normal everyday conversations. Pull your mind apart and just see how much they are in contact with the external world. Everyone, even we. But the discipline is to pull away. Then he says, Tatte padam sagrahena pravakshaye. That goal I shall reveal to you. I will declare that goal to you. Why not? And the simple tip, the very, very simple tip of the entire Gita actually, not only this chapter, is detachment. Detachment is of a mental kind. Vitaragaha. And from where will detachment come to me? It doesn't come automatically. Or one fine day I wake up and I say, okay, I'm not going to be detached or get involved in people's lives. He's saying, don't even get involved in your own life, bhai, not other people's lives, in your own life. How does that skill come? That skill comes only with knowledge, the right knowledge. And the right knowledge is only one. That, this is ephemeral, I am that consciousness. The entire universe is only resting on one consciousness. Everyone's consciousness is exactly the same. In fact, once I imagined I was in meditation, it was just a fantasy. And in that meditation, it was a group meditation. I was sitting in some Osho center in Pune, and my mind and everyone's mind around was silent. And I felt as if that my mind exploded from the confines of the skull and it wandered out. And as it touched the other people, I found that their minds are equally empty, and it is infinite space in their minds too. So the infinite space of my mind touched the infinite space of their minds, and there was nothing but space in that hall. And there were not people or ideas or comfort or discomfort. It was just seamless, timeless, eternal space, because the mind just, after some time, from that silence, exploded into that space. And everyone was in that space. So I felt I was getting into their heads, I felt I was getting into their heads, even Osho Rajneesh's head. And when I went in, I found that I have emerged from their head into another infinite space and another infinite. There is actually nothing other than infinite space. It's just a fantasy. So when that knowledge dawns, only from that knowledge we can get detachment. That who am I? If you think I am this nama, this rupa, this status, the detachment will never come. And therefore it has been said in the 14th verse, Ananya chetasa satata yo mam smarati nityashaha, that it is not a part-time job. Spirituality is not a part-time job. It is said, Ananya chetaha satataha. It is not like insecticide which is sprayed once in a way on the plants. No, it's not a part-time job. Ananya satataha yomam smarati nityashaha. Can you remember me? Yeah, suppose there's a mother. A mother is doing a million things. And she's going out and doing her professional work and cooking, and she has this baby toddler around in the house. No matter what she does that consciousness that I have this baby, and that her mind is constantly there. If there is the slightest sound from the baby, no one else can hear that sound, but the mother can. Why? Because her consciousness is so linked to that. So you can say, the mother remembers that she is a mother only when she goes to feed or play with the baby. At all other times she forgets that she is a mother. How ridiculous. It never happens. It never happens. So, the same way, once we know who we are, Nityashaha means how can you forget? You can do everything, and at the back of the mind you still remember, this is the truth about Sansar, this is the truth about me. So it's not a part-time job. That is what he meant by Ananya Cheta Satata, number 14. But he also reminded us that, just to help us along on this path, number 21, he said death is only a restful place. It's just a place to rest from this. In any case, we are tired. When we are tired, we go to sleep and say, oh, I need some rest. At some point in time, we say, okay, I want rest from this entire drama. And death is only another resting place. Avyaktokshara ityuktaha. And then we pass where? We don't pass into destruction. Oh yes, the body does. But we only pass into avyakta, unmanifest but complete whole self. Complete, wholesome, perfect. That perfection. We pass into that avyakta, unmanifest. Who? Ourself. Tamahu paramagatim, paramam gatim. Supreme. That supreme self, that goal is you. And therefore he said, in this world, whenever you have a choice, you can choose from the lower path, the material path, or the spiritual path. The choice is yours. Arjun, the choice is yours. Number 26, exactly what he said. Shukla Krishne. Shukla is the light. Krishna is the path of darkness. Shukla Krishne gati hete jagatah shashvate mate. The choice is yours out of the two. And therefore, we look forward to Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya. That means the secret, noble secrets of the noble knowledge which is going to be revealed in chapter 9. That who is the Mudha and who is the Mahatma, who took the lower path, the path of darkness, Mudha, and what was his character, and who took the highest path, the Mahatma, and what was his character, Devi and Asuri characteristics. All that, he says, in the next chapter is called the noble knowledge of and the secret knowledge. That's why Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya Yogo. We will take it up next time, chapter 9. Asuto ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityur ma amritam gamaya.